Heatran has historically been a really solid competitive mon, and it was even ranked among some of the best options in the entire metagame for multiple years in a row. Nowadays, with the crazy power creep we see in Gen 9, Heatran has fallen into the underused category. And I figure it's a good time to give the volcanic lava frog or turtle some justice. While Heatran's prime days seem to be behind it, I still think this bad boy can prove to be much better than people think. Especially since stat-wise, this thing is not playing around. It's got huge base 130 special attack paired with great defenses on both sides, so being able to tank hits and dish out crazy damage is Buddy's strong suit. So here's what I'm gonna do. We can potentially bait fire attacks and switch in to activate its flash fire ability, which now boosts our own fire damage by 50%. And we even toss on an assault vest to make him annoyingly bulky on the special side. And then we're roasting and toasting people with stab base 100 power magma storms, if it doesn't miss, and in the process trapping and damaging the target for up to 5 turns. It can also run Lava Plume for the big 30% burn chance, another stab option in Flash Cannon, along with coverage and Earth Power. Terra Flying is a huge buff to the thing, allowing it to avoid that 4 times weakness to ground, and in general, the people are no longer afraid of Heatran, so it's time to give him a reason to be. Nobody ever asks for the lasagna lava frog, and I'm convinced, look, he's pretty ugly, but that's discrimination, and today we're gonna shine some light on the thing. Honestly, Heatran's the kind of mon that, I put it on the team, and it's not really supposed to be like a spotlight role, but this thing is insanely good, and with Assault Vest, it doesn't die, it just dishes out damage. And so today we're gonna be ugly and proud, and show some love to the thing. Look, if that sounds like a fun time to you, you probably should hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, or just don't, that's fine too. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into the match. Alright, so my opponent decides to lead off, just straight up with the little jelly. Now, Ditto is the kind of guy I hate to see on a team preview. Honestly, it can come in, it can just copy your stats, it's gonna be Choice Scarf, it's faster than you, it ends up being a better version of you, and it really stops setup, or at least makes you think twice about it. Now, as it turns into my horse, they get a little look-see at what my moveset is. I figured they'd probably stay in and just set up the Stealth Rock, but instead they just go right into my mortal enemy. They're gonna go straight to the Gliscor. Buff-ass Zubat is always a damn threat, and at least I give him a little shimmy, hit him with some Stealth Rock, and at this point, here's the thing. Gliscor can't really do much to Mudsdale. I can just stack staminas, but in general, I also can't really touch it, so I've got to figure out a plan versus the Gliscor, and that's kind of the story of my life. So I figure one thing I can do, I'm not exactly sure what it wants to go for. I'm thinking maybe it sets up its Stealth Rock. I'm feeling like at least Bramblegast can do some pretty decent damage with the Power Whip. I do not have a good matchup versus Gliscor on this squad in general, but I bring in the Tumbleweed. I can at least resist an Earthquake, and the main priority here is, try to get some chip on the thing. Now, it turns out they go right for the Swords Dance, and that's, that's a little scary. They also are now going to click the Protect, probably just wants to scout what I'm gonna do here. I do click the Power Whip, and it's like, not today, not into that kinky nonsense. So I realize it's gonna do some pretty good damage, and also I'm kind of afraid of what this thing wants to throw at me, but it turns out as they swap out, they're gonna go right into the Chandelure. So seeing the Power Whip, they get a free kind of position into the Chandelure, and they save the Gliscor for later. So as we've seen 2 of the move slots on that thing set, I kind of figure also as the Chandelure gets absolutely beat the hell up by those vines, does way more damage than you think, but I'm thinking Gliscor's probably like a Facade set or something like that is the reason why they maybe swap and save it for later. But regardless, I'm gonna get my Tumbleweed's ass out of here because I have a pretty good spot to switch in Heatran and bait the Flamethrower, which is exactly what happens. We come in, overbake the lasagna a little bit, that's gonna boost our fire damage, and now Heatran is truly in a really good spot with that. So one thing is, they know that they're Flash Fire as well. I can't obviously hit it with fire damage, but what I can do is absolutely soak up that Shadow Ball like it didn't even touch us, and then bop him with an Earth Power. That's a dead Chandelure. And now, I'm honestly looking at Heatran thinking, is this thing about to pop off? I fear it might. So here's the thing, they can go into Ditto, and again, anytime you get a good spot, Ditto comes in to pretty much ruin it. They know that I have the Earth Power. As they imposter into me, now I'm thinking this. I do luckily have the Terra Flying. Knowing that I can bait them into clicking the Earth Power, I can then, float right above it, bop them with an Earth Power, and then just like that, Heatran's just collecting bodies out here. So, we throw a nice little birthday party, we put the balloons on our head, Heatran's looking pretty proud of himself, and I figure they probably just Earth Power here. Now, as they do outspeed, it turns out they click Flash Cannon, which does do not much because of the Assault Vest. and then I can hit it with that Earth Power 4 times effective. That's a dead-ass Ditto. So they probably expected me to swap there, just knowing that the Earth Power destroys me, so they try to make the little prediction there. Instead, nope, we just soak up the damage like a damn sponge, and it's just getting started. So check this out. As they go Gliscor, one thing we know, this thing is faster than us, and as they go for a Swords Dance, they're probably thinking, I am a Gliscor. I'm not generally afraid of anything, but what they should be afraid of is a Magma Storm with the Flash Fire boost, because that just straight up puts his ass in a Magma Blender, and that is an easy kill there. Luckily, because the Flash Fire, we were able to at least connect on that, and that is incredibly satisfying. He's trying to get something going with that Gliscor. Boom, sends his ass right to the Shadow Realm. And now check it out. So they go Vikavolt, and I know that this thing has a Terra. I'm like, they probably go for a defensive Water Terra here. They are gonna pull it out. They're gonna go full Crystal on my ass. But regardless, I'm still clicking the Lava Plume, and it turns out to be Terra Electric. So, you know, one good thing about this matchup is Vikavolt is about slow as hell. And check this out. As they lose their bug typing, I go for the Lava Plume, and that still grabs an easy kill. I kind of didn't even expect that to knock that out, and he probably did not either. But sometimes you underestimate the Heatran's base 130 special attack with a Flash Fire. Thing is kind of insane, and I'm fully a believer of the Tran at this point. This is a classic example of Heatran running through a match that it should have no business doing so in. So look at, they go in Meowscarada, and as they click the Power Gem, it turns itself into a Rock type, but luckily since I'm Assault Vest, I'm able to live, and as I fire off the Lava Plume, it, you know, doesn't get the burn or kill. But the reason why people carry Power Gem on a physical Meowscarada is because it still is able to kill things like Moltres, but as now they click the Triple Axle to grab the kill, it misses, which is honestly kind of hilarious, because then I can finish it off with Flash Cannon, and I myself have been hoed by Triple Axle before, and as I feel kind of bad, you know, game is game, so that's hilarious. The Assault Vest was sneaky there, because that's what allowed me to live that Power Gem, and that's sick as hell. So as they do still have the final Mon, of course it's King Gambit. If it's a standard OU team, you know they're going to save that Supreme Overlord for the last slot. And they do have the Sucker Punch. It does eventually take care of the crazy Lava Toad. What the hell even is Heatran? I have no idea, but I know it's a beast, and it's going to take care of me. But not before we were able to completely nearly body bag the entire squad. And now all I've got to do is go Mudsdale, because I'm physically defensive. I'm Rocky Helmet. I can take an attack from this thing. I don't care how many fallen comrades you got. Your Sucker Punch is not even going to do half, which is extremely sick. So then I get a Stamina just to hype the guy up a little bit. It takes a little Rocky Helmet, and then an Earthquake is going to be able to finish it off. So that was a pretty crazy game, and a great example of, I throw this Heatran on basically just to like deal random damage and just like be something to switch into special attacks, and it really steals the show sometimes. So, you know, shout out to our little Volcano loving homie for that one. That was actually pretty wild. But that's now going to bring us into game number 2, because you know how we do it around here. Look, if you've stuck around this far into the video, first of all, you are my favorite, but also go ahead and do me a favor and click that like button, and then you'll be like actually my double favorite. So, you know, it helps out the channel. The algorithm likes it, and you know, it just click the button. Regardless, let's go ahead and jump into the match. Alright, so this time, my dude's gonna go ahead and lead off straight up with the big meaty claws. A Scizor lead is not that scary for Mudsdale. Here's what I'm thinking. A Scizor in the lead position means one of two things. Either A, it's gonna set up a Swords Dance and try to go for an early setup, which it does, or it's a Choice Band U-turn set and it just tries to get a matchup. Now, it turns out this one is the extra sharp version, and I'm not necessarily immediately afraid of that, because as I get up my Stealth Rock, I mean, Mudsdale, if there's anything on the team that wants to be out against Scizor early, it's probably this thing. So bad news is, I mean, I can only really hit it with Earthquakes, and it should do some pretty decent damage depending on if this thing is built like a full sweeper fella, but it goes for a second Swords Dance, and I'm like, okay, this is still fine. I should still be able to take an attack. And then as an Earthquake does over half, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good. I got my little leg warmers on, and now as they click the Bullet Punch with +4, it still does, I'm not gonna lie, it did more damage than I thought it was going to, and that is kind of bad, because while I do finish it off with an Earthquake, that eliminates my only really physically defensive guy for kind of the remainder of the match. You know, Mudsdale's slow. I at least get up my Stealth Rock. We take care of the Scizor, which is nice, but in reality, I wish that thing didn't just set up on me early. So now as they get a switch into whatever they like, they decide to bring in the Rubber Ducky. In comes Porygon 2, and this thing is faster than me. Again, Mudsdale is not a racing horse. You know, we're kind of the opposite. And we do go down to a Tri-Attack. So Well, that's pretty much, it's fine. I now at least get a matchup into whatever I'm looking for here. So here's the thought process. I decide I can go into, I straight up have the Bicycle Lizard. I guess motorcycle. I go into Bicycle, and here's the thing. Cyclizar is so fast that I'm really going to try to bait a Thunder Wave here. If I know a Porygon 2 like I think I do, this asshole's got Thunder Wave. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a substitute and try to see if we can get that to happen. Instead, they go Trick Room. So they do want to mess with the speed, but not in the way that I was hoping for. And Trick Room is going to make things a little interesting here. So at this point, I really just would like some chip on the guy. If I'm seeing now Charge Beam, we've seen Trick Room, Try Attack. What are the odds its last move is Ice Beam? Probably not high, because they probably would have clicked it if they had it. But the Charge Beam special attack boost is pretty scary. And look, I kind of mess with the Trick Room Charge Beam set on the Porygon 2. Makes it a little more of an offensive speedy threat rather than the usual kind of like defensive wall. But at this point, they go for another Charge Beam here. Luckily, it didn't break our substitute because, you know, it's a 50 base power move. But as they're starting to stack some special attack raises, this Porygon 2 could get a little bit out of hand. I'm mostly just hoping, when I was talking about the move slots, I'm hoping it doesn't have Recover back there. Because if it doesn't, that's going to make my life a little easier. So I go for another Dragon Claw. We get some considerable chip. And here's the thing. It's still got some Trick Room, and it's going to be faster. So one guy that I know is, you know, no matter how many boosts he got, with that Assault Vest, Heatran is an absolute monster in terms of sponging that shit up. I go right into Lasagna. If they try attack here, that's going to be nice. And it turns out they do. I get the resisted hit to come through. Doesn't do much. Also, luckily, does not get the 20% chance for any of the, you know, the damn hacks that it can get. But at this point, I'm thinking, all right, it's going to be faster, and it does have the Recover. Porygon 2, it does not matter what the hell kind of duck it's going to be. One thing you know for sure is it's going to be a problem. So it gets a bunch of health back. As I Lava Plume, it doesn't do anything because this thing is a damn monster. And luckily, at least, the dimensions return to normal. So seeing how much damage that did, I'm thinking maybe a Magma Storm has a chance to kill. And as it doesn't quite have enough to knock it out, it does at least put it in range to where after the next Trick Room, it's going to go down to the continuous damage. So bad news is they get up another Trick Room because they've got some slow folks in the back that's going to enjoy that. But at least we killed the duck. So chalk one up for a Magma Storm kill. I kind of like that move, being able to trap him in and just get continual damage. Plus it hits extremely hard. If it did not have 75 accuracy, I would be using it more. But here's the situation. Now as they go into Torkoal, they've got kind of a dynamic squad here because it sets up the Sun for the Hisui and Lilligant in the back, and while the Trick Room's up, it's not going to be useful. But I mean, it's still going to be scary in the back later. But look, Torkoal under Trick Room is very scary, and I know that it's going to try to just outspeed and go for an Earth Power. So that's why we bust out the balloons yet again. We go for the Terra Flying, and we really, I mean, they have no other option than to go for an Earth Power here. So luckily they do. We float right above it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that actually looked kind of fun. Let me try that out. I'm going to go ahead, Earth Power myself, and that is enough to kill it because Heatran is look, Heatran's a threat. There's enough said. So Torkoal goes down, and luckily that means they can no longer set up any Sun. But now as they're able to bring in Rhyperior, we got a little bit of a problem on our hands here. Now, Trick Room is still up for a few more turns, and that's especially not ideal because I don't really have much that can take attacks from this thing. Now, I decide, looking at the kind of matchup here, I'm going to hard swap into the Bramblegast. I'm thinking they probably just go for Rock Move. I'm thinking maybe I can live it if there's a chance it's gone because they go for the Terra Rock. And honestly, probably a misplay going into the Bramblegast here. I just really trying to look at what they have left. I don't have that many options. And as they click the Rock Slide now, I haven't seen Terra Rock in forever, but he puts a house on his head, and that is going to be a kill with a Rock Slide. So, you know, down goes the Bramblegast. And yeah, my base 70 defense ass was not taking that. So I am pretty low on options of things that wants to deal with this, especially under Trick Room. So first I decide what I can do is go into Dedenne. Now there is a couple turns left of the Trick Room, so I'm thinking I can at least burn one turn of it by going for an Endure. You know, surely they just Earthquake here. I can live that, and then, you know, they only have one turn left, and as they do go for the Rock Slide, they don't Earthquake here. They go for that boosted Rock Slide. And check it out, I end up living it with 6, which I didn't even need the Endure, which absolutely busts my little hamster balls. That really kind of sucks, because at least now, as I get my Pataya Berry boost, and then the Cheek Pouch, which is ridiculously useless, there is still one turn of Trick Room left. And looking at it, Dedenne is probably not going to be able to do much. They have the Hisui and Lilligant back there. And as I go for the damage with one turn left, I should have tried for the Endure again. It's a pretty bad chance that it goes through, but I was thinking maybe Rock Slide miss puts me in a spot where a Thunderbolt just gets enough chip to where I can then kill it with a Heatran Earth Power. It does not end up happening, but now at least the one good thing is this. The Trick Room is gone, and I can go Heatran here to get some pretty considerable chip, you know, with the Flash Cannon. And while it has its damn solid rock ability, it reduces damage from super effective, but as they have to go for a rock slide, it misses. I am getting extremely lucky with the misses today, and that is pretty damn clutch. Because now that gives us a new lease on life. I can then go for another Flash Cannon that kills the Rhyperior. And look, I mean, if you're just going to spam rock slides, it's kind of bound to happen. I knew that there was that potential, and luckily, it actually happened. So I don't know what I did to make Arceus happy, but look, we'll take the hacks on our end. So they've now got 2 Mons left. It's one going to be the Hisuian Lilligant in the Sun thing as a threat, but then they have a Charizard back there. And I do not have really much to deal with this thing, and I was like, if it doesn't have Triple Axle, we might have a chance. It does have the Triple Axle, and it's just enough to be able to take care of the Heatran, sadly. So, you know, being flying type there is unfortunate. If it wasn't flying type, if I wasn't Terra, it would have just close combated there, but regardless, now we've gotten ourselves into even further of a pickle here. So it does reveal its Life Orb. I now have 2 Mons left. I'm going to have the Cyclizar along with the Braviary, and I'm thinking Braviary might just be the late game win con. If I can live a Triple Axle with the thing, that might be my best bet. But first of all, I decide, kind of regardless of what I do here, I'm a little bit screwed, unless there's some crazy luck. Because as I go Cyclizar here first, I know that a Dragon Claw isn't going to be enough to knock it out, and it is going to be faster with that last turn of Sun. So I'm like, you know, I go Cyclizar here, die from a Triple Axle, but it misses. Again, I don't know what I happen to do to deserve this, but that allows me to then go for a Dragon Claw. And as the sunlight goes away, I mean, look, honestly, I feel kind of bad about it. The misses, I probably deserve the late game L on this one, but now I can outspeed, go for another Dragon Claw, and that's going to be a dead Lilligant. So guy's got to get his Mon's eyes checked. I don't know. It even happened last game too. So I'm going to take full responsibility of the fact that, you know, I mean, Triple Axle should have connected there. But look, if it's not 100% accurate, it's 50% accurate. And that's a direct example of that. So now their final Mon is going to be the Charizard. Buddy's looking menacing over there, just standing on the ground. And as I go for the Dragon Claw just to get that damage, doesn't obviously do enough to knock it out. And as it does have the Dragon Pulse coverage to knock me out, we get ourselves in a spot where it's Braviary versus Charizard. Now the thing is, I need to click Sky Attack. And one thing we know about Sky Attack, it is not 100% accurate. And I would say, honestly, if this misses, I wouldn't even feel that bad. So I go Braviary here. I have to click Sky Attack, essentially. I do have the Power Herb to get it to activate immediately. It is going to be able to outspeed and clicks the Heat Wave. Does do over half. Luckily, no burn. And as I go for the Sky Attack, cloak myself in a Harsh Light, pull the extra set of wings out, activate the Power Herb, and I'm like, uh-oh. And it does connect. Easily has enough damage to knock out the Charizard, and that was a real nail biter at the end there. I will say I'm going to give the guy the honorary dub for the misses on that one, but still, regardless, a really fun game. Interesting on both sides, and that's going to do it. Listen, thank you guys very much for watching. As always, the support is insanely appreciated, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace out.